Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe as we take a look at the headlines and the big discussions that you're having both online and on what I would call legacy media. Now, I want to focus on what's happening online, and the conversation over the last 2 days has turned tribal. Of course, with the demonstrations and the destruction of property, people have mapped out the geographical locations of where all this action was based, and many people are saying, yes, it is mostly around the Mount Kenya region. And I think one of the dailies has focused on that, the People Daily saying that why Mount Kenya is now the epicenter of the demos. This has also taken a tribal connotation, and the conversations online are becoming a bit scary, at least from what I see. There's a trending hashtag, "We are all Kikuyus," and that was in response of, or at least an attempt to counter that narrative that it is one community doing this. Do you see the risk going forward that we are back to where we were maybe around 2007, where we are talking about tribe again?
It's the politicians, okay. Let me say those in government who are taking us to that conversation. But like I said, the ordinary Kenyan realized we fought, we lost property, we lost lives, people were never compensated. As someone in Kibera, they always told, hey, bring your list of what you lost to the chiefs, to the DC, you'll be compensated. From 2007, people were never paid. So people realize when we are fighting for someone who they'll go shake hands, so in as much as the government is trying to push Kenyans to that conversation, Kenyans have realized nyinyi ni kazi imewashinda, and that is why you're bringing this distraction. I urge Kenyans, do not entertain that conversation. There are some who are saying that no, there's Kikuyu entitlement. Some are also saying we need to level the playing field. But when we say that, I always remind Kenyans, whether you have a small shop or not, whether you're selling fish, not all your customers are your tribe. So as when we all move together, when we all have money, when our purchasing power is okay, we are going to support each other. So I want to tell Kenyans this is a distraction and ignore it, because politicians want to say.
We may say it's government doing it, but now the conversation appears to have caught on that other, even young Kenyans, who last year were saying they're tribalists, have gotten into the conversation, and they're talking about how, yes, what you've mentioned, there's Kikuyu entitlement, and it is that kind of risky discussions that led to what we had in 2007.
Because we are not yet upscaling the conversation. Remember, we are still stuck in this conversation of for 60 years, this tribe has been dominating, this tribe has benefited. But I want to tell, as an ordinary Kikuyu, I do not benefit when a Kikuyu president is there. I always suffer like any other Kenyan. If it's paying school fees, we are not given free things. So I want Kenyans to realize, shun that conversation of saying there's entitlement. Because you always see me kwa mtaa, we are neighbors, we have the same struggles. When goons come, when police shoot at us, we suffer the same thing. When we entertain this conversation, we are making the politicians who are benefiting from our taxes in terms of salaries to thrive. We should look at how do we interact on a daily basis as an ordinary Kenyan. And I'm saying that whatever you do, even if you own a matatu, as a Kikuyu, I do not carry only Kikuyu customers. As long as every Kenyan can afford to buy my service, that is my joy. And that is how we are going to build a nation. So I think it's government that is using old way thinking to fight an economic problem, giving us a political solution to an economic problem. They need to sit down and realize it is beyond what we used to say at TCS. It's now how are we going to increase the participatory rate of Kenyans so that people stop feeling like some people are entitled or we need to level the playing field. Because when you say leveling the playing field, in my mind I'm worried. So you need to flatten everyone who's achieved. We need Kenyans to start feeling, I have something to lose. That is what we need to do.
Senator, do you feel concerned that this conversation about tribe has gotten to the level of the Houses of Parliament, that it is some of your colleagues online talking about this and making some very scary sentiments?
Fred, let me tell you, yes, I'm very concerned. And I can assure you that this is a narrative that has been crafted and is being twisted by government. And this is because of the insecurity that President Ruto feels. President Ruto has realized that he has lost the Kikuyu vote. And that is where he got 47% of his total vote. And remember that the difference between Raila Amolo Odinga and President William Ruto was only 200,000 votes. So he won by a margin of about 200,000 votes. You have lost close to 5 million votes. Now you become very uncertain, very unstable, very insecure. And because you can see that the people who gave you all these votes might now take the vote to somebody else, then what you do is try to see whether you can be able to bedevil this particular community, so that now, if it is possible, that no other communities join them. Because you are sure that if these votes are combined, for example, with the vote from the Western region, then you lose by a margin that has never been witnessed before. What's more, because I know this narrative, it is especially being driven by, and sorry to say so, by Luo politicians, led by Kaluma.
And that's a risk, because now we're saying it is us versus them, it is this people saying this and that. It's a very dicey space to get in.
Let me prosecute this point. Mm-hmm. President Ruto fears. In fact, I think in his spine, he fears a situation where the Kikuyu and the Luo would come together. Because if the Kikuyu and the Luo come together, then it's a done deal. President Ruto would have no chance. So then what does NIS advise William Ruto to do? See to it that especially the Luo community develops a hatred for the Kikuyu community. And that is where this narrative is coming from. It is actually government incubated, government driven, and government supported, with the interest of President Ruto and his re-election in 2027 in mind. But let me assure our viewers, Fred, and especially about the Luo community. If there is any community from the Western region that interacts with especially the Kikuyu community, it is the Luo community. Go to any part of Mount Kenya, even the most interior place, you'll find some Luos there. And I'm telling you, come to Murang'a, go to some places, you'll find especially Luo craftsmen, doing, especially they're very good in panel beating. In fact, there are people in our place who do not believe that panel beating of their cars can be done by anyone else other than a Luo craftsman. And the interaction between the two communities, it's at another level. And that is why this narrative is being driven. But I can assure you, and those that may care to listen and watch, that the Kikuyu community is not tribal. Why do I say that? They voted to a man, for William Samoei Ruto, knowing very well that he was not Kikuyu in 2022. Knowing very well that he had been accused of perpetrating killings of members of the Kikuyu community in Rift Valley, and particularly in Kiambaa Church. But the Kikuyu community that he now wants to brand tribal forgave him for all those evils of 2007, believed in him and voted to a man for him. So I want to assure any other community in this country, including the Kalenjin community where President Ruto comes from, that we should not allow this narrative to continue. And none of us chose where to be born, Fred. That one we must remind people. So that Kalenjin in Uasin Gishu must not feel threatened by that Kikuyu in Murang'a. Why? Because we voted for a man from Uasin Gishu, knowing very well that he was not Kikuyu. So let people assess leaders on their abilities and their capacity to deliver. And like Justina has said, no Kikuyu has ever benefited directly. And I want to challenge the Kalenjin community members. Now that Ruto is Kalenjin and he comes from your community, if you are an ordinary Kalenjin, how do you benefit directly from President Ruto's presidency? Because that's a question that everybody must ask themselves. The people benefiting in the Kalenjin community from Ruto's presidency are the clique around him. Talk of Murkomen, talk of Sudi, talk of Faruk Kibet. Not the ordinary mwananchi in some interior place in Uasin Gishu or in Baringo. And so this narrative Kenyans must not accept to buy this narrative. We are Kenyans and our problems, we suffer the same problems. And let William Ruto for once stop dividing this country along tribal.
This is one of the biggest problems that the Gen Zs said this is something they will stay away from. Yet I can see more and more them being dragged back into that conversation, especially on X. Even that hashtag speaks to something that now we, the older generation, has managed to pull these young Kenyans into a discussion that they never were in. Are we saying that the Gen Zs are losing a bit of their identity in agreeing to be dragged to discuss tribe at any level?
I think it's an issue of shaping the narrative. And let me add on to what Senator has said. Kikuyus also voted for Raila Amolo Odinga. And when I say that they voted for his policy, remember he had promised 6,000 shillings. Ruto had also promised that the economic, he's going to bring the bottom up. So we didn't even, the Kikuyus didn't vote for a specific person. They were voting for the policies. So we are not tribal at any point. So I want the Gen Zs to start focusing on who is giving solutions, policy solutions. Leave the Justina out of it, leave the Kikuyu, leave the Umama in me. Look at what am I saying? Because even what we've also failed in this country is that we look at politicians from Huyu Mama Kosawa to, things that are not making sense. At the position that politicians sit when you're elected or appointed, you're supposed to come up with strategic decisions using your brain. So don't entertain the thought of just because I'm Kikuyu. No, it is what am I bringing on the table? We can even have 20 Luo presidential candidates, but you can look at who is giving tangible solutions to the problems we face. So why maybe they're being drawn into this conversation is that you're not upscaling the conversation towards policy solutions or legislative solutions. We are still focusing on Raila Amolo Odinga and Ruto. No, when the Kikuyus voted for those two, they were voting for the policy proposals they made in their manifesto. So when we start seeing things beyond the person or beyond the man or woman, probably it's going to change how we see things. But as it is, the narrative is being shaped towards the tribe, which is unfortunate.
Mesha Kodede is back. Mesha Kodede is a political commentator and he joined us via video link. Meshach, we are discussing the rather unfortunate discussions online that appear to have turned tribal. And one wonders, where did we start losing this? Because the Gen Z, in their clamor last year said they were tribeless. But it would appear there's a narrative being driven, especially on social media, and people are back discussing tribes. What is your feeling about that?
Thank you, Fred. And Senator there and Justina knows, and all Kenyans generally know, what the young people of this country were able to do last year when very few people out of their age believed that they might achieve. And so we know what happened. It called on the president to accept some things and even send the entire cabinet home. So that is just a tip of the iceberg when you have a team of young people with zeal and they are telling you we are tribeless and we cannot be divided. So anybody would expect someone and I'm not saying this is not just a narrative that only government will perpetuate. This is a narrative that will be perpetuated by both sides of the divide. We know what young people can do in this country because they gave us a taste of it last year in 2024 around the finance bill issue. So we are sitting as politicians from both sides of the divide, and we're looking at a team who can revolutionize everything. And in that revolution, it will go with some of the gains I have as an individual, the ones you have as an individual. So for us to actually maintain that, this is where the two political divide will have to agree to ensure that these young people are divided along the tribal narratives. And so I will not say this is something that only government will do. Government will do it with zeal to ensure they maintain their position, because if they are left to unite and be tribeless, they can cause real revolution. The opposition will also not let them be tribeless. Trust me on that. They will also want, because when we talk about numbers, we are simply talking about the tribe here. We are talking about our numbers versus their numbers. And so it is in the interest of both the opposition and government to ensure that these young people are no longer tribeless. And that is why the narrative is coming in, and it's coming big time.
All right. And I can see our time is up. We have only about 9 minutes or so to go. So probably I give you an opportunity to give your final words. We'll start with you, Senator, on this issue of tribe and the way forward, because it's a very dicey issue. And the only reason why I introduced this debate was because I was deeply concerned, just looking at the trend online. Within a few months now, we're back talking about your tribe, my tribe, and just the way forward.
The way forward is, tribalism, Fred, is driven by political leaders. And the way forward is for political leaders not to appeal to the emotions of people through ethnic comments or division or balkanization, and that everybody looks at Kenya as Kenya. And what is there in a tribe apart from language, Fred? So I think I also want to call upon Kenyans, like I had submitted before, that we should not allow ourselves to be divided along tribal lines. And that we have a lot, when you don't have an election, we live together. You go to Mathare, for example, you'd find that these are Luo. The next door neighbor is a Kikuyu, is a Kamba, is all manner of people from this country. And they suffer the same problems. If they don't have sanitation, of course they suffer the same problems. And so people should not allow government, because it's also a diversionary tactic. The government wants to divert the attention of Kenyans from the problems that they are facing, so that young people now start seeing their problems as Luos, as Kalenjins, as Kikuyus. Young people and Kenyans must concentrate on demanding for their rights from this government. Young people, young Kenyans and every other Kenyan must not see themselves as members of a particular tribe. They must join forces in fighting for a better Kenya, for more economic empowerment and improvement, for better, better management of our political landscape, and not accept to be diverted from the issues affecting them. And for the youth coming to lay Boniface to rest on Friday, I think I once again want to call upon them to do it peaceably, like they have always done. We call also on the police officers to see to it that they come there to maintain law and order, and not to beat up or kill people, because we know that we'll be in a rural place, and we do not expect any goons from the locality, and any goon that we see there, we will hold the police accountable for it. And the police officers, finally, like I had said before, I'm just repeating, they must remember that they are also Kenyans, and they have sisters and brothers. They have children. Before you pull the trigger, because Murkomen told you to do so, remember you'll face the consequences of your actions alone. And even if you wear a mask against a court order that has actually been issued, then as a police officer, know that there will still be a way of identifying you, and God is there for all of us. And and you never spill human blood and escape with it. There is no perfect murder. So police officers, be careful. Youths, be peaceable, don't be armed. Let us lay Boniface to rest, and let us give the family the respect and the peace that they deserve.
Thank you, Senator.
I would like to talk to the media in this war. The media is supposed to focus on the policy and legislation proposals, because when they start focusing on this one is beautiful, this one has dimples, Kenyans always start following. The media actually shapes the narrative. And I want to remind Kenyans that when these people win elections, they go to a position where they're supposed to make strategic decisions, where they are paid a lot of money. Can we ask them to give us value for money in terms of them using their brains to come up with solutions? Because that is their role, to influence and shape policies that make life easier for Kenyans. So as we go forward, even media, it is your duty to shape conversations that are making sense to Kenyans. Because at the end of it all, if we are supposed to survive the next 60 years, then the conversation must be scaled up to something that is adding value to the ordinary citizens.
Thank you. Finally, Meshach, give us your final comments on what we've discussed this morning.
Thank you, Fred, and the other panelists. My two comments quickly would be, there's nothing wrong with being a Kikuyu, there's nothing wrong with being a Luo, and there's nothing wrong with being even an Indian who is living in Kenya. There is everything beautiful about everyone bringing their culture on the table, and we all make one big Kenya that is beautiful. And so nobody should apologize for being who they are. We should find a way of making all these cultures and diversity become a beauty or show the beauty of Kenya. And finally, to our young people and to the political class, I don't think youth of Kenya is a problem to be solved. I see youth of Kenya as a catalyst to the solution to many challenges that we have faced as a country. So let us not treat youth trying to come on the table as a problem to be solved. Youth coming on the table should be seen as a catalyst to the many challenges that we have, and is going to help us get the solutions, because the person nearer to the challenge is the person who can solve that challenge even faster. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meshach Odede, political commentator, Justina Omae, champion for economic democracy, and Joe Nyoto, Senator Murang'a County, our panelists this morning on State of the Nation. As we look at the big headlines, and starting with the numbers, death toll rises, hits 31, that's a Daily Nation. And this is from the Sabasaba demonstrations and also the June 25th protests. 140 killed since 2023 over demos. That's the front page of the Star. Innocent blood. That's a two-word headline of the Standard. And on the People Daily, they talk about why Mount Kenya region is now the epicenter of demos. Those are just some of the big discussions. Of course, issues to do with the proposed national intergenerational conclave, and whether or not that's the best solution going forward. Thank you so much for your time this morning. After the break, remember today being a Wednesday, it's Relationship Wednesday. The question we're asking, is it wrong to date for financial stability? Well, interesting question there. Anodida will be having a big panel in studio, so do stand by for that. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.